Trials. China is home to more than 1.41 billion people, making it one of the most populated nations on Earth. It is the third largest country in the world by land area, stretching from the frozen Siberian borders in the north to the warm tropical coastlines in the south. Trials. Within this vast land lies the highest plateau on the planet, along with deserts so enormous they can swallow entire cities beneath endless sand. Even in a country with over 1.41 billion people and more than 5,000 years of recorded history, Trials, there are still places that remain unknown to most of its own citizens. These locations are not hidden because they are secret or restricted, but because China is incredibly vast, geographically extreme, and rich with layers of history. Entire villages, lakes, caves, trials, and mountains exist in remote corners that even local people have never truly discovered. Imagine a lake that hides a complete ancient city beneath its surface. Picture a village built inside a cave so large that it creates its own weather system. Trials. Visualize a towering cliff filled with 200 chambers, all connected by stairways that resemble a spider web clinging to a steep vertical wall. Now think of a narrow mountain peak where two temples stand apart, separated by a deep abyss. Trials, yet connected by a single stone bridge high above the clouds. This journey we explore 10 of the most unseen places in China that even locals do not realize exist. Stay until the end, Trials, because the final destination is a sacred mountain so powerful and extreme that reaching its summit requires climbing 8,888 stone steps, and the view from the top may make you question whether you are still on Earth. Before we begin, Trials, leave a comment below and tell us where you are watching from and what time it is right now. Let's see how many countries this video can reach. Trials. More than 1,000 years ago, deep within the mountainous landscapes of Guangxi province in southern China, the Zhuang and Yao communities were confronted with a challenge that appeared impossible to overcome. The terrain was far too steep for traditional farming. The valleys were extremely narrow, and heavy rains constantly washed away the fragile soil. Cultivating rice, the essential crop that sustained their families and shaped their identity, seemed unachievable in such harsh conditions. Instead of abandoning their land, they transformed it. They began carving the mountains into layered steps, creating what we now know as the Longji rice terraces. These terraces extend across nearly 500 hectares of mountainside, beginning from river valleys at around 300 meters above sea level and climbing to heights exceeding 1,100 meters. Each level forms a narrow strip of land, carefully supported by stone walls and compacted earth, designed to follow the natural curves of the mountain. From a distance, the entire landscape resembles the intricate patterns of a massive fingerprint pressed into the earth. Historical records from the Guangxi provincial government reveal that the construction of these terraces began during the Yuan dynasty around 700 years ago and continued for centuries. Every single terrace was shaped by hand, and every retaining wall was built using stones carried up the steep slopes by human effort alone. There were no machines, no large animals capable of navigating such terrain, only simple tools, determination, and generations of tireless labor. During the summer season, the terraces are filled with water before planting begins, and that each level transforms into a reflective surface, mirroring the sky, drifting clouds, and surrounding peaks. Thousands of these shining layers stack along the mountainside, creating a breathtaking scene. At sunrise, the entire area glows with shades of gold and silver as light dances across the water. These terraces are not merely a scenic attraction. They remain a fully functioning agricultural system where farmers continue to grow and harvest rice using traditional methods passed down through generations. The terraces provide food, regulate water flow, and protect the land from erosion, sustaining life in the region for over 1,000 years. While many travelers visiting China focus on major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, or Chengdu, Guangxi is often overlooked. As a result, these remarkable terraces, one of the greatest achievements in agricultural engineering, are witnessed by far fewer people than iconic landmarks like the Great Wall each year. If mountains shaped by human hands over centuries seem extraordinary, the next destination will take you even deeper into nature's most astonishing creations. Trials. Now we arrive at a place that many people struggle to believe exists until they witness it for themselves. Deep within the remote mountains of Guizhou province, far removed from major cities, distant from international airports, and untouched by typical tourist development, Trials stands a mountain that rises to an elevation of 2,570 meters above sea level. For much of the year, this mountain remains hidden beneath thick layers of fog so dense that its summit cannot be seen from below. Clouds often drift beneath its peak, surrounding it like a vast white ocean, Trials, creating the illusion that the summit is floating high above the world. This remarkable place is known as Fanjing Shan. At its summit lies one of the most extraordinary and almost unbelievable sights on Earth. Trials. The peak but a dramatic rock formation split into two towering pillars that rise side by side, resembling two fingers reaching toward the sky. Each pillar is steep, narrow, and nearly vertical from every angle. Trials. Resting on top of each of these pillars is a Buddhist temple. These two temples stand apart, separated by a deep and narrow crevice, yet they are connected by a single stone bridge suspended high above the abyss. Built during the Ming Dynasty around 500 years ago, Trials, these structures have endured the passage of time and still remain standing today. Reaching these temples is no simple task. Visitors must climb a total of 888 stone steps from the base of the mountain to the summit. This number carries deep meaning. In Chinese Buddhist belief, Trials, the number 8 represents prosperity and wholeness. The journey up these steps is seen not only as a physical challenge, but also as a spiritual path meant to cleanse both body and mind before arriving at the sacred peak. For most travelers, Trials, the climb takes between 4 to 6 hours to complete. In 2018, UNESCO officially recognized Fanjing Shan as a World Heritage Site, describing it as the most isolated metamorphic rock island on Earth. The geological origins of its twin peaks date back more than 1.4 billion years, Trials, making them older than even the Himalayas. Fossils discovered here are among the earliest found in China, yet it is the view from the summit that leaves the deepest impression. When clouds settle below the peak, which happens often, Trials, the twin temples appear to float above a sea of white mist. The narrow stone bridge seems to hang in empty space, while distant mountains rise through the clouds like Aizen scattered across an endless ocean. The atmosphere is silent except for the sound of wind. The air feels thin, Trials, the light turns soft and golden, and many who stand there describe the overwhelming sensation of being completely removed from the earth below. Fanjing Shan has long been regarded as one of the most sacred Buddhist mountains in China. According to centuries of belief, Trials, this summit is a place where the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds becomes incredibly thin. Standing on that narrow bridge between the two temples surrounded by clouds, it becomes easy to understand why this belief has endured for generations. Trials. The mountain itself has existed for over 1 billion years, the temples for centuries, and the clouds continue to gather and disappear day after day. Yet despite its significance, most people in China, and even more so around the world, have never heard of it. Trials. Consider what this represents. 8,888 steps leading to two temples perched on separate pillars, joined by a single bridge above a vast void, offering a view so surreal it makes you forget the world below. Trials. This is just one of 10 extraordinary places within one country, shaped by 5,000 years of history and a landscape so immense that even its own people have not explored it entirely. Across this land, there are rice terraces carved by hand over centuries. Trials. A cliff filled with thousands of statues crafted from clay and natural materials. A village reclaimed by jungle within decades, and a community living within the depths of a cave. There is a city resting beneath the surface of a lake for over half a century. Trials. A cave system that has been forming itself for millions of years, and a desert spring that has endured for thousands of years. There is even a hanging village constructed with modern strength, yet designed to resemble ancient wood. A lake that shifts its colors with the sunlight. Trials. And finally, a mountain where two temples seem to float above the clouds. None of these places are part of the usual travel routes. They rarely appear in the guidebooks carried by most visitors. They are not widely promoted, nor do they need to be discovered. They have always existed, Trials, quietly waiting beyond the well-known landmarks such as the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, and the towering skylines of Shanghai and Shenzhen. Hidden among mountains, caves, and valleys, they reveal a deeper side of China that has remained in plain sight for thousands of years. Trials, and if the idea of a modern hanging village seems remarkable, the next destination will take you even further. Imagine a lake so remote and so high in elevation that reaching it feels like standing at the very edge of the world itself. Trials, high in the mountains of southeastern Tibet, within the Ningxi prefecture, there lies a breathtaking lake resting at an elevation of 3,800 meters above sea level. This lake is unlike most others in the world because its color transforms throughout the day. In the early morning, its waters appear a deep shade of green. As the sun rises higher toward midday, the color shifts into a bright turquoise. By late afternoon, when sunlight strikes from a different angle, the lake turns into an intense blue that almost seems unreal. As if it has been artificially enhanced, yet it is entirely natural. This remarkable phenomenon is caused by glacial minerals carried within the meltwater. These fine particles remain suspended in the lake and interact with sunlight, bending and reflecting it in different ways as the sun moves across the sky. The result is a constantly changing display of color that feels almost magical. Basangko Lake was formed from the melting glaciers of the surrounding Himalayan mountains. It stretches for about 12 kilometers in length and reaches depths of up to 130 meters. Depending on the season, the water temperature ranges between 0 and 20 degrees Celsius. The lake rests peacefully within a valley encircled by snow-covered peaks and thick forests of coniferous trees. The stillness of this place is profound. There are no crowds, no noise of human activity, only the gentle sound of wind moving through the trees, the soft motion of water, and the occasional call of birds. In the middle of the lake sits a small island, and upon that island stands the ancient Sozong Temple. This Buddhist monastery has existed for more than 1,000 years. Reaching it requires a short journey by boat across the calm waters. The temple itself is modest in size, capable of holding only a small number of visitors at one time. Yet its setting makes it one of the most visually striking spiritual sites in Tibet, surrounded by forest, floating within a glacial lake, and framed by towering Himalayan mountains. It creates a scene that feels almost otherworldly. Despite its beauty, very few ever visit this location. According to regional tourism authorities, Basangko receives far fewer visitors compared to well-known destinations such as Lhasa, the Potala Palace, and the Everest-based remote location is one of the main reasons. Reaching the lake requires hours of travel along winding mountain roads from Ningxi, which itself is not commonly visited. The high altitude also adds to the challenge. At this elevation, oxygen levels are significantly lower than at sea level, making physical activity more demanding. Even simple movements can feel exhausting at first, and breathing requires noticeable effort until the body begins to adjust. This is a place that reminds visitors they are far from ordinary environments. A lake that changes color with the movement of the sun, a 1,000-year-old temple resting quietly on an island, and mountains so tall they fade into clouds drifting below their peaks. It is a destination that remains largely unknown, even to many people within Tibet itself. And if a lake that shifts colors at the edge of the Himalayas feels like the most extraordinary sight imaginable, the final destination may challenge that idea completely. Because the last location is one of the most famous places in China, yet what stands at its peak has been balancing on the edge for 500 years. In 1959, a major transformation took place in eastern China when the government completed the construction of the Xinan River Dam in Zhejiang province. This project led to the creation of a vast artificial lake covering nearly 580 square kilometers. As the waters rose, more than 1,000 small islands appeared across its surface, giving rise to the name Chandao Lake, which translates to Thousand Island Lake. At first glance, the lake is breathtaking. Its clear green waters are surrounded by rolling hills covered in dense forests. Islands of different shapes and sizes are scattered across the surface, forming a landscape that looks like a natural masterpiece. Boats glide smoothly between the islands and resorts line the shores, making it one of the most popular holiday destinations for domestic travelers in this region of China. However, beneath this calm and beautiful surface lies a hidden world that most visitors never realize exists. Around 30 to 40 meters below the water, something extraordinary has been preserved in silence. When the dam was completed and the reservoir filled, two ancient cities were submerged beneath the rising waters. The most famous of these is known as Xicheng, or Lion City. This city was established around 300 years ago during the Tang Dynasty. It was once a thriving urban center, complete with intricately carved stone gates, wide streets, homes, and temples. When the decision was made to flood the area, the residents were relocated to safer places, but the city itself was not destroyed. Instead, it was left untouched as the water slowly covered it completely. Decades later, in 2011, an expedition documented by National Geographic revealed the remarkable condition of this underwater city. Divers who explored the site found that much of the architecture had remained incredibly well preserved. The cold and dark environment beneath the lake slowed the natural process of decay. Detailed stone carvings were still clearly visible, wooden structures had not fully deteriorated, and long sections of the city walls continued to stand strong. Archways that entrances to different districts were still standing, now opening into nothing but deep, silent water. Xicheng was not a small or insignificant settlement. It served as an important regional center with a history stretching back over 1,000 years. When the reservoir was created, its sacrifice was considered necessary for economic development, especially for hydroelectric power generation. At that time, during the period known as the Great Leap Forward, large infrastructure projects were given the highest priority, and decisions like this were widely accepted. Today, a limited number of visitors have the rare opportunity to explore through specialized diving tours. Visibility beneath the water can vary, but on clear days, divers can see the outlines of buildings and streets from several meters away. Passing through the gates of a city that has remained underwater for more than 60 years is a powerful and surreal experience. Swimming above streets where people once walked and alongside structures where families once lived creates a feeling unlike anything else. Above the surface, the lake continues to attract visitors with its beauty, peaceful atmosphere, and comfortable surroundings. Yet below, hidden beneath the passing boats, an entire city rests silently, untouched by time. It waits for those willing to dive beneath the surface and discover a piece of history that most people never even realize exists. If the idea of a lost city hidden beneath a lake feels extraordinary, the next destination takes us even deeper into mystery. This time, the secret is not underwater, but inside a mountain where something has been forming and growing for over 2 million years. If you are still watching, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss what comes next. In 2014, a group of architects and engineers arrived at an abandoned granite quarry in Jiangxi province. The site had long been deserted after years of heavy industrial use. The cliffs were deeply scarred, and the surrounding environment had suffered severe pollution due to decades of stone extraction. By every standard, the area was considered completely destroyed and beyond recovery. Over the following decade, an investment of nearly $400 million was dedicated to transforming this damaged landscape into something extraordinary. What once stood as a ruined quarry has been reshaped into a place that feels as if it belongs inside a traditional Chinese ink painting. Today, this location is known as Wangshan Valley, a remarkable cluster of structures built along towering vertical cliffs. The buildings appear to cling to the rock face in a way that almost defies gravity. Multi-level structures with classic gray-tiled roofs are stacked upon one another, rising upward along the cliff like a suspended city. When viewed from the valley floor, these homes resemble enormous bird nests attached to the mountainside. As night falls, soft lantern light begins to glow through the drifting mist that fills the gorge, creating an atmosphere so surreal that many visitors describe the experience as stepping into a dream. Despite their ancient appearance, the architecture is far more modern than it seems. According to construction reports shared by Chinese state media, these buildings are inspired by traditional stilt houses, but they are actually secured using advanced engineering techniques. Massive steel beams are driven deep into the mountain rock, providing the strength needed to support the structures. This steel framework is carefully concealed beneath traditional wooden joinery designs and rammed earth surfaces, giving the illusion that the buildings were created using ancient methods. The walls themselves are crafted from rammed earth using local yellow soil mixed with straw. Trials, a construction technique that has been practiced in rural China for centuries. The builders intentionally avoided using paint, instead relying on the natural tones of soil and stone. This approach allows the structures to blend seamlessly with the surrounding cliffs, making them appear as though they have existed there for generations. Wangshan Valley is not an ancient settlement. It is a modern creation built within the past decade. However, its design reflects a question that has challenged Chinese builders for thousands of years. How can people create homes in landscapes that seem impossible to inhabit? How can a structure be attached to a sheer cliff? And how can it be designed in a way that feels as though it naturally belongs to the mountain itself? The result is a place that looks like it belongs to the Song dynasty, yet it is held together by steel supports and modern construction methods. It represents a unique blend of ancient artistic vision and contemporary engineering. Hidden within a remote valley that rarely appears on maps, it remains unknown to many travelers, even within China. An investment of $400 million turned a broken quarry into a breathtaking cliffside city, yet most people have never heard of it. Before moving on to the next destination, take a moment to check the subscribe button. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which hidden place has impressed you the most so far, because every comment is read and appreciated. Deep within the vast expanse of the Gobi Desert, about 6 kilometers south of the oasis city of Dunhuang in Gansu province, towering sand dunes rise more than 250 meters into the sky. These dunes extend endlessly in every direction, forming a landscape that feels completely empty and unforgiving. Nothing grows in this environment, and almost nothing moves. The wind constantly reshapes the sand, erasing footprints within a matter of hours, leaving no trace of those who pass through. Yet at the base of these immense dunes, nestled in a hollow between two walls of sand, lies something extraordinary. A natural spring shaped like a perfect crescent moon has existed here for more than 2,000 years. Despite the harsh conditions and the ever-shifting desert trials, it has never been buried by the surrounding ramal. Known as Crescent Moon Spring, this body of water measures roughly 100 meters in length and about 25 meters in width. It is sustained by underground water sources that have kept it alive for centuries, even as the desert around it has continuously changed. Beside the spring stand a small temple and a pagoda built in traditional Chinese architectural style. Their delicate appearance contrasts sharply with the massive dunes rising behind them. Historical records from the Dunhuang municipal authorities and ancient texts dating back to the Han Dynasty around 200 BCE reveal that this spring was already a well-known landmark along the Silk Road. Travelers, including merchants, monks, and soldiers journeying between China and Central Asia, would stop here to rest and replenish their supplies. The spring was regarded as sacred, believed to possess healing qualities. Its survival in such an extreme environment was seen as a sign of divine protection. However, its existence has not always been secure. During the 20th century, the spring came dangerously close to disappearing. Agricultural irrigation in the Dunhuang region caused the underground water levels to drop significantly. By the 1990s, the water level of the spring had declined sharply, and its iconic crescent shape began to shrink. For the first time in its long history, it seemed that the desert might finally overcome it. In response, the Chinese government launched a large-scale restoration effort. Water resources were carefully managed, and restrictions were placed on groundwater use in the surrounding region. These actions helped stabilize the water level and preserve the spring. Still, this intervention served as a reminder that its survival was not guaranteed. Without human support, the desert could have covered it within a few decades. The dunes surrounding the spring are also known for a unique natural phenomenon. When strong winds pass over their surface, the shifting sand produces a deep, resonant sound that resembles distant drumming or a low musical tone. This effect has earned them the name Singing Sands of Dunhuang. On quiet nights, this mysterious sound can travel for kilometers across the desert. Here, a crescent-shaped pool of water rests in the middle of an endless sea. It has endured for more more than 2,000 years, surviving both natural forces and human impact. A small oasis that nearly vanished, yet still remains, defying the desert that surrounds it. Trials, if a spring that has survived 2,000 years in one of the harshest environments on Earth feels almost miraculous, the next destination will take that sense of wonder even further. In 1980, a team of geological surveyors exploring the karst mountains of Guizhou province made an unexpected breakthrough beneath the surface. Their instruments had shown nothing unusual, yet they suddenly broke into a vast empty space hidden underground. What they discovered on the other side was of a simple cavern. It was a massive subterranean cathedral carved by nature itself. Jijin Cave extends for more than 4,500 meters through solid limestone bedrock. Inside, its largest chamber spans over 150 meters in width. While the ceiling rises in places to heights of around 40 meters, the interior is filled with extraordinary formations, including stalagmites, stalactites, flowstone layers, and crystal-clear pools. These structures have been forming in complete darkness for nearly 2 million years. Some of the stalagmites inside the cave reach heights of more than 7 meters. They have grown extremely slowly. Built layer by layer over hundreds of thousands of years as mineral-rich water drip from above. The formations take on an incredible variety of shapes, so diverse that the original Chinese geological exploration team documented more than 40 distinct types of cave formations. This remains one of the highest counts recorded in any single cave system in China. According to official geological research published by the Guizhou Provincial Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, Jijin Cave is considered one of the most important karst formations in all of Asia. Within its depths flows a hidden underground river stretching approximately 500 meters. This river moves quietly through the deepest sections of the system, its waters cold and crystal clear. It has been shaping and carving the cave long before modern humans ever appeared on Earth. Despite its immense scientific value and staggering size, Jijin Cave remains relatively unknown outside of China. It is located in one of the country's most remote and economically underdeveloped regions, far away from major tourism routes. Reaching the site requires several hours of travel along winding mountain roads from the nearest city. Those who make the journey have described the experience as stepping into another planet. The scale of the cave is overwhelming and disorienting. Inside, silence dominates completely, broken only by subtle echoes within the vast chambers. Carefully placed lighting reveals the ancient formations, casting shifting shadows that move as visitors walk past them. Every corner feels alive with geological history. What makes the experience even more astonishing is the realization that everything inside has been forming drop by drop over the course of 2 million years. Mineral deposits slowly built each structure in total darkness, far beyond the reach of human eye. It is a process so slow and continuous that it reduces human existence to something almost momentary. This hidden world existed untouched for millions of years until a geological survey team accidentally broke through the rock in 1980 and revealed a landscape that had been quietly forming beneath Guizhou long before humanity even existed. If something hidden beneath the earth for 2 million years feels ancient and otherworldly, the next destination takes us to a place where human life itself exists inside stone, a village completely enclosed within a cave. Deep within the karst mountains of Guizhou, one of the most remote and economically challenged regions of China, there exists a village unlike anything most people have ever seen. This settlement is not built beside a cave or near a cave, but entirely inside one. And not just any cave, but a colossal natural cavern so vast that it contains homes, a school, a basketball court, and even farming spaces, all sheltered beneath a massive stone ceilings rising nearly 50 meters above the ground. This extraordinary place is known as Zhongdong, meaning Middle Cave. For generations, around 100 people from the Miao ethnic community have lived within this natural structure. The exact origins of the settlement are unclear, but local oral traditions suggest that families have called this cave home for centuries. For much of the outside world, the village remained unknown until international journalists brought attention to it in the early 2000s. According to reports from global media outlets, including The Guardian and Chinese state news agencies, trials, Zhongdong once even had a functioning primary school operating inside the cave. This school continued until 2011, when authorities decided to close it and transfer students to a conventional school in a nearby town. Trials officials stated that China should not be seen as a society of cave dwellers and that the existence of such a school did not align with the country's modern image. However, the villagers saw their home very differently. To them, the cave was not a symbol of poverty or backwardness, but a practical and effective place to live. The natural stone ceiling provides complete protection from the region's intense monsoon rains. Inside the cave, temperatures remain stable throughout the year, staying cool during summer and comfortably warm during winter. The floor is wide and flat enough to support farming activities and livestock. Meanwhile, the surrounding karst landscape offers very little usable land for traditional construction, making the cave one of the only viable living spaces in the area. The homes inside Zhongdong are built using simple materials like wood and stone, arranged in neat rows along the cavern floor. Sunlight enters through the enormous opening of the cave, illuminating much of the interior during the day. As light fades deeper into the cave, families rely on oil lamps, and in more recent years, solar-powered lighting systems have been introduced. Despite its unique setting, the village lacks many modern conveniences. There is no running water system, no internet connection, and no paved road linking it to the nearest town. Essential supplies must be carried by foot along narrow mountain paths. In cases of medical emergencies, residents face hours of travel through difficult terrain that can become completely impassable during heavy rainfall. Today, Zhongdong remains one of the last known inhabited cave villages in China. While the government has offered relocation programs, only some families have chosen to leave. Others continue to stay, living within a mountain beneath a natural ceiling shaped slowly by water over millions of years. For much of the outside world, this village remained completely unknown until a journalist followed a mountain trail and discovered life hidden inside the rock. And if living inside a cave feels like stepping into another era, the next destination takes us even further into mystery. A place known as the Ghost Village awaits, where silence tells its own story. Back in the 1950s, Huan was a lively and active fishing village about 65 kilometers away from the coast of Shanghai in the East China Sea. More than 2,000 fishermen and their families lived here in tightly packed stone homes built along steep winding cliffs that overlooked the ocean. Life in the village was complete and self-sustaining. There was a school for children, a local market for daily trade, and narrow pathways connecting every home to the harbor, where fishing boats would return each day with fresh catches from the sea. It was a small but fully functioning island community. However, everything began to change in the early 1990s when fish stocks in the surrounding waters started to decline. Small local boats from Huan could no longer compete with large industrial fishing fleets operating from the mainland. As opportunities faded, younger generations began leaving the island in search of work and a better future in Shanghai and other cities. Slowly, family by family, the village was abandoned. By 2002, it was completely empty. Once the people left, nature began to take over. Within just a decade, the stone structures that once formed the village were no longer simply weathered or broken, but fully overtaken. Thick ivy climbed over every surface, dense moss spread across walls, and fast-growing vines wrapped themselves around entire buildings. Rooftops disappeared beneath layers of greenery, and doorways transformed into dark passageways leading into living walls of plants. The village did not collapse in the traditional sense. Instead, it was slowly absorbed by the surrounding environment. The region's humid subtropical climate and aggressive plant growth gradually swallowed the entire settlement until it became part of the island itself. What was once a human community turned into a green landscape that hides its own history beneath layers of vegetation. Today, Huan is known as one of the most photographed abandoned villages in Asia, although surprisingly few people actually make the journey to see it in person. Reaching Shengshan Island requires a long ferry ride from Shanghai, followed by a demanding hike along narrow cliffside paths that lead down to the hidden village. There are no paved roads, no formal tourist services, and no guides to assist scariest visitors. Trials, the only way forward is a steep and quiet descent into a place that the jungle has claimed. According to reports from China Daily and the South China Morning Post, Trials Wan began gaining widespread attention around 2015 after aerial photographs went viral on social media platforms in China. These images revealed rows of stone houses cascading down the cliffs, completely covered in vibrant green plant life. From above, Trials, the village no longer looked like a settlement, but rather like a natural formation shaped by the land itself, with only faint traces of windows hinting at its Husan past. At its peak, more than 2,000 people lived, worked, and raised families in this village. Trials, yet within less than 2 decades, every visible sign of that life was erased beneath layers of green. The houses still stand today, but they are no longer visible in the way they once were. The jungle has taken them back, as if deciding they now belong to it. Trials. If a village completely reclaimed by nature feels unsettling and surreal, the final destination takes us to something even more visually striking. This next story leads to a landscape shaped by reddish-purple rock, revealing a completely different kind of natural wonder. In the year 420 CE, during the chaotic era of the northern and southern dynasties, Buddhist monks in northwestern China began an extraordinary project on a towering cliff that rose out of dense forest like a massive reddish, purple stone tooth. This cliff, Trials, standing about 140 meters high, had a nearly vertical surface that seemed impossible to climb, let alone carve. Yet over the centuries that followed, generation after generation of artisans transformed it into one of the most remarkable sacred sites in human history. Across time, Trials, nearly 200 caves were carefully carved into the cliff face, and inside them were placed more than 7,000 Buddhist statues. This incredible site is known as the Maijishan Grottos, one of the 4 great Buddhist cave complexes in China, alongside Mogao, Longmen, and Yungang. Trials, unlike those more famous locations, Maijishan is hidden deep within the mountains of Gansu province. It is far from major cities and surrounded by thick forests that conceal the cliff entirely until you are standing directly beneath it. Trials. What makes Maijishan visually unique is not only the caves themselves, but the intricate system of stairways and walkways that connect them. Narrow wooden and steel paths are fixed directly into the rock, linking caves at different heights across the cliff face. From a distance, Trials, these pathways resemble a giant web stretched across a vertical wall of stone. Walking along them is both breathtaking and overwhelming, as the cliff presses closely on one side while open air drops away on the other, with the forest canopy far below. Trials, according to art historian Annette Giuliano of Rutgers University, who has conducted extensive research on Chinese Buddhist sculpture, the figures at Maijishan were not carved directly from the rock. The stone itself was too fragile for such work. Instead, Trials, artisans developed a unique method using local materials. They combined clay, straw, plant fibers, and egg white to create a sculpting medium that could be shaped by hand. This mixture was then applied onto wooden frameworks that were firmly anchored into the cave walls. Trials, the result of this technique is astonishing. More than 7,000 statues, many of them life-sized, were created over a period spanning more than 10 Chinese dynasties. The artistic evolution of nearly 1,500 years is preserved in a single vertical landscape. Trials, each cave reflects a different era, style, and set of beliefs. Moving from one cave to another feels like traveling through time, witnessing the gradual transformation of religious art, culture, and craftsmanship across centuries. The combination of red stone, deep green forest, Trials, silent ancient figures, and suspended walkways creates a scene that feels almost otherworldly. Maijishan stands as one of the most extraordinary examples of religious art on Earth, yet it remains largely unknown even within China. Trials, which hidden place amazed you the most in this journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you reach this far, you are already part of the Forbidden Fathoms journey. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next exploration. Trials, the next destination goes even further into the impossible, and we will see you there. Stay safe and stay curious.